Dear learners, welcome to the session on case studies for measuring the impact of research output. See, during this NPTEL course of science communications, research productivity and data analytics using the open source softwares, you have been gone through the journey, the how research being generated and how what are the way to you can measure the research, and also the tools how we can measure the research. And now to this case studies, we will going to take you through the from the beginning to end, the how we can choose the particular journals, how the research organizations, and the how the research topic for measuring the research, and how you can download the those data from the databases like Scopus and Web of Science. And also you will also look at it how we can know the how we can download the data, and how we can analyze the downloaded data using the softwares like we can use the R packages and OSViewer. To begin with, for this case study, we will have a impact analysis of a journal uh, and the research institutions. See, when you go for identifying the journals, we have some minimum criteria. We have some criteria to select the journals. Which journals you have to go for analyzing the research impact. It also depending upon the it's the interest of the research and the area of the research interest, and also the need of the society. The how this research journals is been providing the scholarly impact to the readers. As a researcher should have some domain knowledge, and the journals you are going to select for the analyzing the research, it should be a specialized and in the subject area. And we should also know that whether it's how who are the publishers, is a well-known publishers, and what the reputation of the publishers, and where it is abstracting and indexing information, whether it's the journal is indexed or in the Scopus and Web of Science. Those criteria we have to look at it. And also the major another important criteria would be the impact factor, whether these journals, what is the impact factor of these journals. It is indexed in the Web of Science and Scopus, but though the what is the impact factor, whether this journals comes under the Q1 journalist or Q2 journalist, Q3 journalists, and some of the other criteria we can also look at it for selecting the journals for analysis. For this case study, what we have selected the journal called the Cancer Journal of Clinicians. This is a journal which is related to the medical science and cancer research journals. It's published by American Cancer Societies and is accessible through the Wiley. It also indexed by the Scopus and Web of Science. And impact factor of journals, you can look at it. It's one of the highly cited journals. This is the Q1 journal, and this impact factor, as per the journal citation report, it's at 254.7, and the Scopus site score it's a 642.9. With this, we have considered for analyzing the research impact of the journals from the data of the Web of Science. We have also chosen that duration period of 1974 to 2023, means we are considering the all the journals article published during this period, and we will going to look at the what are the methodologies we can apply, and we can identify the how we can identify the research impact, how we can identify the growth of research articles by the year wise, how we can also look at that various kind of collaborations networks, and also this co-citation networks. Those kind of things we can look at it using that bibliosiny, that's the package of R, and OSViewer. Let's look at it again. There's a simple step for installing the bibliometrics. It's a package of R, and it's a science mapping tool which is freely available. Let's look at it how we can install this. Like the one should have the R. In my PCs, the R is already available. I have installed it, and I also have the R Studio. See, bibliosiny, if you are going to install the bibliometrics in the R package, you have to open that R Studio. See the simple code: install packages bibliometrics, and you can run this. And after you running this, you can call the library. It's also bibliometrics. then you can call with the bibliosity, right? But this is how the simple steps I know for installing the bibliometrics using the in R. You have a simple process. There's a three-step process. Once you have the R, and also you have installed that R Studio, and then there's a simple code for installing this bibliometric package. Now we have come to know that how we can install the bibliometrics packages. But let's go to the downloading the data from the Web of Science. Uh, this is the what we have taken is we have taken the journal called the Cancer Journal for Clinicians, and for downloading those data, we have to go for the Web of Science. See here, see there are options for available, like I can go for putting the publication titles, or there are options are available for the advanced search. If you directly want to go for search by the journals, see I'm going with the advanced search here, and there are number of journals, like the journals indexed by the Scopus. It's giving a clear options here in the advanced search features, like the publication titles. I'm keeping the publication titles. I'm searching here in our journals, the CA, the Cancer Journal of Clinicians, and find find here. See, we found the one of the one result, because if you're going to use that advanced search, we can directly find the exact journal which we wanted to be download and extract the data. And I'm going to add this in our search box and add the query, and here I'm searching here. Now you can see that journals of the Cancer Journal of Clinicians, it's been published since 1974, and you can look at the number of publications here, 1954 articles. That means it's a frequency are very low, but that also is one of the criteria for how this journals being very qualitative, and how why this journal is more important, and why this journal has got the more impact factor, because there are less number of articles, and it's more impactful journal in the medical science or cancer science research. Now we can look at it. This is how we have come to know that these journals have been published 1952 articles, and there are some filter options are there, and the book types and research profiles, and you can also look at the Web of Science categories, and these are options are there. But now we what we wanted to export this data, identify the and analyzing the impact that been generated, that been generating these research articles published under these journals. Means we what are the data we needed? We needed all the bibliographical data of this, and we needed the citation data, and also we required that the references, means all the bibliographical data including the references we wanted to export from here to analyze the research impact of these articles. And we can select, either we can directly go to the export. See what there are other options are available. We have the you see that Excel and plain text files and tab delimited files, those files formats are available. But what we needed, the file format which is supported to the bibliometrics, how to the host viewer, we wanted to identify those file format and download it. Like here we needed that the plain text file which is being supported by the bibliometrics package. I'm just going to click on the plain text file, and here means always a limitation with the Web of Science is we can't download the all the records at a time. We have to download the limit 1 to 1,000. That's the limit that we can download. That's the range we can identify, because we can't download the after the 1,000 from the Web of Science. And we also select that what type of the content we required, like as I was mentioning that we need the full record. In the full record also we can choose the fields that are required. What are the documents that are required, like what we required is in the author to title source, that is the one is the author and title sources, and also the sponsors, and times of cited count and access numbers, authors, identifiers, and you can look at the abstracts, keywords. We need the affiliation, we need the keywords, research areas, and also cited references. We also need the cited references and cited reference count and usage count and fundings. Whether if you are going to look at the analysis of fundings, maybe we need the funding also, the funding informations, publishers, maybe the source language and languages. Means this is how we can select or deselect the informations or metadata information that are required from the particular articles. Now I'm selecting the maximum informations or bibliographical elements that are required from the Web of Science. I'm this save selections, and it's look at like custom selection. There are 23 field I have selected. I am putting export. It always take a little time. Now here you can see that I have downloaded 1 to 1000. Again I have downloaded another the remaining ones, like again I'm going for the same process. Earlier we were having a 1 to 1000, now 1001 to 2000, because it's the 1900 articles are there, that comes under the 2000. So we are selecting the maximum range 1001 to 2000. Again the full record, I have the custom selection of 23 elements. I'm putting for export, right? Means this is how we can export the data from the Web of Science. So what we have done is like when you're going to assume that you are going to write the articles on evolution of research impact on particular expert journals, the first you have identified the journals with specific criteria, and that's been like you have some of the journal identifications of criteria, the background studies you do with some literature review. Based on that you are going to identify the journals, which journals you are going to analyze it. And after identifying the journals, you have to identify the source where you have to find the data. It might be the Web of Science, or the Scopus, or the PubMed, or some of the other databases like the Dimensions or the Google Scholars. And the once you finalize that this is where I wanted the data of the journals, again you can go and download the data with the field, what are the field that we require for analyzing the research impact of the articles published in the journal. Now we did the process. Now we have to analyze the impact of these journals. We have seen that how we can install the bibliosiny bibliometrics package to the R. I'm just going for importing the data of what we have downloaded. Like here is options, because if you look at the dashboard of bibliosiny, you will find the few features, not the maximum of them. Like you can see that the only the data, loaded data, and the gathering data, and some of the other options, like you will find that the package tutorials and convert how import the data files and bibliospheric tutorials. Means one can quickly the go to those tutorials and those informations which are available about briefly about the bibliometric, how it has been work, and how we can use this for measuring the research impact. It's going to help. Like this is kind of the regiment tool. Some of them are using some other programs, but this is kind of the regiment tool where we can directly import the data and we can easily identify the research growth, the research impact, research collaborations, and others as well. Now I'm going for downloading the data here. It's a load the data, and we have the right side import or the load, and here is an option for import the raw file. Now there are other options like the load the bibliometrics file if you have it, and the use the sample collection. Now we are selecting the raw data file, that's the one, and second database is the source of the data where we have downloaded. Like for this analysis we have taken the Web of Science as a source, and the browse here I have already data what we have downloaded, I kept in my folder. I'm just selected the data what we have downloaded from the Web of Science, and start. See, this is the conservation of this file is taking some time, and this is going to read the all the files. Now we have imported the data to the biblioscene. And now, you can look at it. It's like the completeness of bibliographical metadata. It's 1952 documents what we have imported to the biblioscene, and this is data we have downloaded from the Web of Science. You can see that the status. It will going to clearly show you that the how it is like a document type. Now it's based on the data we have imported, means every fields of data, how it's look like. Whether we have all the data, it's look like the document type. It's a excellence, means all the document types fields are filled, and the journals and languages publication year, it's a excellent. And you can see that critical science categories and titles, total citations, and authors are good, and DO is acceptable, means here the DO is acceptable, means here. And it's not, we can't say it's not all the articles or indexed mentioned the DOI. Somehow we can find that DOI may not there. And you can look at the corresponding authors details are very poor, and affiliation details are criticals and abstracts, means you will clearly understand how your data what we have downloaded from the Web of Science has the each elements. Like I'll quickly show you. Like we have downloaded it. Here is in Excel. If you can see that it has around 72 fields, but when we are looking that we have a poor kind of the remark by the biblioscene. Like see, here we have a corresponding author details a poor, but when you see that corresponding authors, we editors full name, document type, and host, address, yeah, address and affiliations. So let me look at it. If you look at the corresponding author details, see, we don't have the corresponding author details, means addresses. If still we can I'll filter it out. So you can see that there are 1,000+ articles who don't have the corresponding author details. At the same way, you can look at the cited references. The cited references also, when you're going to look at the cited references, see, we don't have a cited references, means this is how we can in the first glance of biblioscene what we have imported, we can clearly come to know that how data has been there. Somehow, if we can, this also depends, whether this can be acceptable for the analysis or not. And we are going with this now, because what we have downloaded, we found that the citation references keywords, as some of the articles was really not in the Web of Science itself. Now we have just to close this. We can quickly look at it. Just number of the data what we have imported here. And here there is another options, gathering the data. It's like the how we can it's the another option, the load the data, it's from the files, and gathering the data to using the APIs. You can use the APIs given by the dimensions and the PubMed. We can gather the data from directly from their website to the biblioscene. And here there's a filter options. Let's start with one by one. And we have the main overview. Yeah, it's in the main overview. It will going to give you that brief overview of the what we have downloaded the data. Like the sources, because source one is we have selected the journal based analysis of research impact. So it means we have only one source which has the 1952 documents, and you can also see that the duration of published articles, and 1954 documents, and the annual growth, and number of authors being contributed, and single author articles, and international co-authors and co-author per documents, a number of keywords, references, and it will going to give you the major overview of the imported data. And see, at the end, there's an option for downloading the report. There's an option for downloading if you need that. This is the report we needed, because somehow what's happened, if you're writing an article, if you're going to create a report on the research impact analysis of the particular journals, we need this kind of summaries to begin with: the durations, sources, documents, annual growth, and authors. So here's an option is a plus. We can directly add and click on here to adding into the report. Now after that, we have options to make it annual scientific productions. See, here we are having the annual growth of publications. The one analysis we can take as annual publications analysis, how from the 1974 to 2024. Again, this is however for the Zoom, and you can make it out, and this is the one we can need it. Image or the figure that we need, we can directly go and export. There is an option for the exporting here. And second, what we need, we also the average citation per year. You see that the average citations per year, and when it also give that the one is in the plot, means in the image format, and also it will have to give that in a table format. Somehow we wanted to present our research reports in the graphical format and also the table format. We can copy this directly. It can be copied, or we can also you have it directly export the Excel. You can directly see that. Now this is how that the annual growth of citations, because it will going to give a flexible options of downloading the images, and also the data can be exported to the Excel or CSV files. The another options are there, three field plot. Yeah, this is how the three field plot is there. You can have the details of the the author affiliations, and also the uh, documents. This also we can be downloaded here. And there's in a customized kind of things, which parameters for creating the three plots. We have selected the authors, that's the number of items, and references, and the right field would be the keywords. A number of items we have taken like 20s. But if we need that this parameter we wanted to change, if we wanted to change the middle parameter should be the keyword, and left format we can take as an author, and the right we can use that in abstracts. We can change that three flat plot, how we can want it to be have that. Now it is like you have a authors first, and in the middle you have a keywords, and the right you have a abstracts. I mean, this is how the interconnected of these three field plots can be created, and it can be, we can also download this. Right, and means these are all for the overview of the journal impact what we are doing now. Means we have seen that the main overview what we have majorly required, and annual scientific of production, and average citation per year. Now we can go with the source, the because here we have only selected the one source, that's the cancer research journals, because we don't have much to analyzing about the source. So we are going to the authors. See here in the author analysis, we can find that the most relevant authors, the most cited authors, it means, and the most local cited authors, we can, it's a prolific authors who have published the more articles by in the journal of See, the most relevant authors are it's like the prolific authors, the maximum number of articles published in the Journal of Cancer Research Clinicians. So you can see that maximum articles published by anonymous, because there's known authors are, and the second one is a 96 author, second author published by the 96 articles, and third one is a 64 articles. We can also see that in the table format. Here I'm going to download this plot, and we have the most local cited authors. So you can also see that the most local cited authors, and the another option is here, author production over the time. See, this is the author production over the time during the period of publications since 1964 to 2004. How many authors have been published, a number of articles. You can also see that that's documents. The authors been published the documents in the table format, and the frequency of the number of articles, and also the it also be the details of the articles. It is also one of the most important image that we that figure that we needed for identifying the author production over the time. Means this is also helps to identify the consistency writing on a research or doing a research on a particular area, and also publishing a research on the same journal. And we have a Lotus law and other local impact. But next, what we are going for it, document based analysis. Here, document based analysis, it also give that the most global cited documents. How many documents journal article published in this journal has the most citations, which journal article has the most citations since the it's published. Like you can see that there's another articles, it has the 75,000, 75,154 citations, and you see the citation per year, and also normalized NC. We can means this is how we can equate the most cited articles of cancer research clinicians, and this is how we can identify prolific title journal articles and most cited journal articles. And you see that those details are also available. And let's export this plot as a image here. And now the another option is here is the most local cited references. You see this, the most cited references, like we have the cited references and number of citations is, and it's also the Google Scholar link. I mean, this kind of data, if you look at the image, the plot image is not seems, we can see that feasible to the readers. So when we're going to create the reports, we can also, in such case, we can also export the Excel file of this data, and we can put it in the research reports. And another options, like we have the most frequent words articles published in this areas, because this is how the, like if you look, if you know that what is the major keywords of this journal, and what is the major keywords and major the word that's been used by the researchers and authors in published article in this journal. So we can also look at it using this the most frequent used words. The another option is a word cloud is also there. The similar kind of the analysis, it's kind of the keyword analysis that we can look at it. And the words frequency over the time. See, you can have the maximum of 10 5 keywords, and look at that how it's been used. Here we have the keyword plus, that's we have taken that in the field under the keyword. And is editing of the text, what we needed, what we don't need it. And but very importantly, we can identify the clusters map. We can secure the cluster map. See, this is how we can create the cluster by by coupling. uh, you can also identify and look at the tables here and normalize the local citations and clusters, and also you can see the major clusters, right? And factorial analysis. Okay, there is another analysis like the factorial analysis we can do using this platform. Now we can have the word map and also the topics and the word by cluster and other article by clusters. Now we are looking this into our report. Now we can download it. Some of the like co-citations and co-authorance we will going to do using that OSViewer platform, but under this social structure we can also look at the collaboration network. However, this collaboration network also we can do in the OSViewer. Okay, see, this is how you can do the collaboration network using this bibliosiny. What we learned in this bibliosiny or bibliometrics platform is that it's like ultimate tools is available for analyzing the research impact. What we were doing is currently it's like we have taken as an example of cancer journal clinicians for analyzing the how that impact of this journals been there in the scholarly community, and we have identified the number of publications, annual of publications, and the citation per year, and how it's been author the most prolific authors, the authors have been write more articles during the period, and also we can secure the documents, the most cited documents and more local cited references. And we have also seen that the maximum keywords frequently used keywords using the keyword analysis. With this, how we can use that bibliometrics platform for analyzing the uh, research impact of journal. Now, this option we have going for the report here. See, here is a report. Now we can easily select and also the export to the report. See, now you can easily identify this is how the main report we can will have it. You have the main informations. It's in a brief information about the uh, uh, analysis, and here is the one for the three flip light and factor analysis what was selected and collaboration network. Some of them we can also, if you can want to have the all the data in a single excel, that is a good option. You can go with the each and every options it gives to the it's given by the each and every options given here, and once you analyze that you always go and add to the report. Like we have a scientific research analysis, right? Now you see some of these are the few analysis what we are done using this bibliometrics. Let's analysis the same data using the OSViewer. How we can utilize this data in the OSViewer for creating the citation network and co-citation network, bibliographical couplings, other features given by the OSViewer. Let's start. See, this OS Viewer is how it looks dashboard of OS Viewer looks. We are clicking on the create here, and we are selecting the create the map based bibliographical data, and this is the how we have already data has been downloaded from the Web of Science. That's a bibliographical data. We are selecting here, and we read the data from the bibliography databases files. Yes, we are taking the data from the Web of Science, and we are choosing the source of the Web of Science here, and our data Web of Science. It is our data of Web of Science. Now just click on next. Now you can see that our as per the OSViewer can give the facilitate to create the type of analysis like the co-authorship, co-occurrence citation analysis, bibliocoupling, and co-citations. For what we did using the bibliosinial bibliometric tool is, it's kind of the analysis we did, year-wise analysis, also the maximum citation based analysis. Now we can look at it, the networks, how we can create the various network using this OSViewer platform. Now I'm just going with the co-authorship and using the unit of analysis like authors and organizations and country. And co-authorship networks, I'm selecting this as author now. Next, for the minimum number of authors to be considered, maybe I'll always minimize that. It's like I'll take the all the authors for co-authorship network. I'm going to click on the next, and here number of documents, and here I have all the links. I'm finished. This is how we can create the co-authorship of the journal. And another analysis, like we can directly go for analysis and we can take the snapshot. We wanted to save this as a co-author networks. And the second one, it's like for co-authorship by the organizations and the country wise, we are going with the country wise. And that's the next, and we are putting the minimum number of countries to be considered here in the article. Right, and you can see that the co-authorship by the countries, the maximum number of articles published in the USA, and that's been collaborated with the co-authors have been collaborated with the the Canada, France, and the other the maximum number of countries. Um, Let me save this. Country. And another, we can do that in a co-occurrence network, so using the all the keywords. Now we are going with the co-occurrence network of using the all the keywords. We are minimizing the number of keywords, number of occurrence of the keywords, and click on the next. This is how the all the keywords network keyword occurrence of using the all the keywords, so we can visualize using that OSViewer. There are other format, I mean type of display. We can see the overlay visualization and density, the visualization of this image of figure. Right? We can also save it. And next we will go with the another doing the analysis. Like we can also use the citation network. Here is another important, like the citation networks. Since we can take the few examples. We can go, we can do the analysis by the documents and also the organizations and the country. Let's start with the document wise. Because this is how the visually we can analyze the citations by the document. Citation document. And another, we can look at that the citations by the organization. Minimize that. Yeah, you can look at the citations by the organizations. You can see that there are number of networking. I mean, there's no more citations by the organizations. You will find the different networks. It's not connected with the any other organizations. But when you have a citation have been cited more than one organizations, you have multiple collaborations. You have network have been connected with the each and other organizations. Right now, let me this. I'm going again here, and let's we'll go to the bibliographical coupling, and bibliographical coupling by the documents. We can also create the bibliographical coupling by the documents, and let's go with the next. And this is how we can create the multiple visualization using this OS viewer. What we require is we can also do the analysis of bibliographical coupling by the country wise. This way you can always analyze the research impact of a particular journal. We were taking this screenshot also. And let's look at that the how co-citations looks like the co-cited analysis by the cited references and also the cited sources and cited authors. So the co-cited analysis can be, the unit of analysis we are selecting as a co-cited cited references. We are taking next, and we are putting the minimum number of citations. It's one. And this is how we can create the co-citation networks of cancer journal of clinicians. We can identify the citations have been cited by the more than more than multiple papers. We can also take this image course, right. And finally we will have another analysis of co-citation network of cited authors. Here how we can create that in a various visualization network using the OS viewer. Cited authors. What we have seen that we have right from the to this case study session, what we have seen that we right the beginning from the selecting the journals, and also we have downloaded the data, and after downloading data what kind of analysis we have done using this your bibliosiny and as a bibliometrics, and also we were 10 we have conducted the the kind of analysis the what this both applications are given for the analysis. Now we have completed the measuring the research impact of a journal, but let's look at how we can measure the impact of as a research organizations, as an organizations. If you would like to analyze the research impact of an institutions, how we are going to do that? The same way we have taken the example of a research organization here, how we can analyze the research impact of the institutions. Maybe somehow you can also analyze the where your the institutional productivity of the organizations where you have been working, or some of the research organizations productivity of any of the institutions. It may be the university of the comes under the private, and also the government institutions or the research institutions. For this case study purpose, what I have selected the research organizations called the National Dairy Research Institute, that's which is the rank 2 of the NRF ranking 2023 in the agriculture and allied sciences area, and we have chosen the data source of the Scopus, because what you have seen is on earlier case studies for analyzing the research impact of from the data source in Web of Science. For this practice purpose, we have chosen the data source from the Scopus database, and also we'll do the analysis how we have conducted using the bibliosiny, bibliometrics, and OSViva. Let's start how we can download the data from the Scopus. Yeah, here you can look at it, the Scopus search features given, and they can search the document search, author search, and research or discovery organizations. This research analysis purpose, we need the search by the organizations, because we are analyzing the research impact of a research institutions. So we can directly go to the features given in the organization, and we can search. We already, it's been indexed here, and you can see that number of documents are published and indexed in the Scopus. It's a number of documents are published under this research organization is 5754, and number of authors are 2253. Number of authors are part of this research institutions. You can also see that in this Scopus is quickly overview, you can see that the documents by the different research area, and that's been graphically presented here. You can see that the collaborated organizations with this National Dairy and Research Institutes being collaborated with the number of other research organizations in India and internationals. Now let's go with downloading this data for this analysis purpose. Uh, we can click here. Now we have seen that 5754 documents, and always you can see that options are given by the Scopus to look at the what are the features and what are the filtering facilities are given to identify the research articles published by this research organizations. For downloading this data, we can select the all, and here's an option is given, and again this also given the options which kind of data we needed, whether we need the all the kind of bibliography, or we need the small number elements of bibliographies, like we need the citation informations, we can choose. And if you need the bibliography informations, you can go with the bibliography, and abstracting details and funding details if you needed, and if you need the including references. Which format you need the manually as RIS, CSV, BibTeX, and plaintext. And if you need that in the CSV format, what we prefer to download in the CSV format, and we can put in the export. Because here's the problem, I know, we have seen in the Web of Science, it also some of the limitations of downloading the number of records. It's only 2000 records, or if you want to have the full all the documents in the CSV, we have to put in your email address. It will take a little time, but the immediately the Scopus will send you the details, right? With this way we export. Now I'm just for this practice, I have already downloaded the data. I'm just showing here how you can download the data by putting your email address to get all the data. By the other way, if you would like to download the 2000, what you can do that you can also use the filter options by the year wise. You can take the maximum 2000 by the year, like you can filter it out in a years of total number of documents which comes below 2000, and you can export them. After you download all the documents in a 2000, those data can be merged in a single Excel, right? I mean, this way you can download the data using the Scopus databases of the particular institutions, either maybe the research organizations are private. It's not you should be go with the uh, on same institutions, like bigger institutions, but you should make sure that before you going for analyzing the XYZ research organizations, or the private university, or the university which comes under the government, it must be having a number of minimum number of documents. They should be active with the research. They do publish they regularly, and if you have the minimum number of research articles, that also helpful for you to analyze those impact. Minimum, you don't need to know if you're going to analyze the research of the organizations with only few, like 100 or 500 articles. Your research output may not be a good. We can what we have downloaded, because for this purposes we have downloaded here. And same practice, we will going to use the author. We have this Scopus data in a CSV format. This is how we have downloaded and kept in an Excel. Let's go with the uh, importing the data using this bibliometrics tool. Again, I'm going with the loading the data. Here is a raw data file, and what we have done is earlier it's a data source from the web of science, but now here we are selecting this corpus because this time for analyzing the research impact of the institution is from the Scopus database, and we are choosing it. Let me take this path. We are selecting and let's start. It also depending upon the number of documents. It take a little time if you have a huge number of data to building this entire process and converting this the article into there. It will take a little time. Now it's imported all the data what we have taken from this corpus. You can see that the earlier in the Web of Science data we were having a few excellence, some good and maximum are the critical, but in this corpus data you can see that maximum are the excellent, means there is no missing count. You will have all the data, and there are few types where you have a document type and the languages and cited references. Some of them don't have cited references. You have some missing counts and corresponding author details, and keywords devoice and the keyword plus are very poor conditions. Means we had better data compared to the Web of Science. Scopus has given the better data uh, after in the institutions what we have taken, and I'm going to close here. And as you mentioned, you can also see that. And let's start from the beginning. We can look at it, how we can go with the main informations and impact of any institution. So as an overview, you can see that what we have downloaded the data from the Scopus. It's like a number of documents is 5747, and you have a number of sources here. Earlier we had the journal based analysis, like we had the only one journals, but this is an institution based analysis. You see that a number of sources, means number of journals are published by the institution researchers. It's a 960, and also time duration it's a 1955 to 2024, and you have an annual growth rate of publications. It's a 7.01, and number of authors, it's in the use number of authors been contributed, like we have a 5934 authors, and the number of single author articles, it's only 51. I mean, so that you can also clearly indicate it here. The out of 5934 authors, the only 51 other single authors. That means the maximum research articles published by the co-authors. Yeah, that's the international co-authors. It's a good number. International co-authors is 9.762% are international co-authors, and the co-authors per documents is a 4.47, and you have a keywords and references, and also the documents average age is 611.2. We also need this in our report. We can click here in the plus mark. Next, we are going annual scientific productions. This is annual growth of publications published of any research organizations. What was selected is National Dairy Research Institute, and you can also see that in the table format. And this plot also we can download it for generating the entire research analysis in single report. We are also adding this into the report here. And so average citations per year. This is the plot for the average citation per year, and you see this in the table. The average citation per year. It's all the years. You can see that. You can look at it, the three field plot of any research articles published by the research institutions. There is an option for filtering this, what I was showing in earlier also. You can use these parameters for selecting your various fields for this three field plot and the number of documents. Let's look at the sources. See, most relevant sources, and you can see that the maximum number of articles published by the researcher of a research institutions by the in the Indian Journal of Animal Sciences, and you can see that the number of journals, the maximum journal authors published in the different journals. This is the most relevant sources, and the sources. Let's we can also add into the report, and let's start with the authors. See here, the most relevant authors in the National Dairy Research Organization. So you can see that the prolific authors, you see that the prolific authors by the number of documents published, like there's an author called Kumara S, has the 191 documents, followed by the Kumara R, it's a number of documents by the 131. Like this, we can create that the prolific authors of the research organizations what were selected for this analysis, and author productions over the time. You can see that author productions over the time, and it can be filtered out with the number of authors also. You can, if you need that maximum 20 numbers, we wanted to know that maximum 20 numbers of authors, we can go with the maximum 20 number of authors for identifying the author productions over the period. And the affiliations, you can see that the most relevant affiliation details, like you have that there's a one which has been most the articles published in the research in an institutions, because since we have downloaded the data by the national dairy research institutions, you can see the maximum articles by them, and it's also collaborated organizations. It's been collaborated with the related research organizations. And you can see the authors countries, corresponding authors countries, the where the authors being collaborated in a country level. You can see that in the maximum articles are published by in the India, and also that's been collaborated with the USA, Germany, and Netherlands. This is how you can see that corresponding authors countries means the geographical locations, geographical collaborations of the articles published by the researchers of National Dairy Research Institute, and you can see that the country's scientific productions, number of documents of a particular country. Yeah, you can see that this is geographically that it's been presented in such a way. You can see that number of documents by the India, and also the some other countries like China, and you see that USA, and you see that Canada. And you can see that the country production over the time means the whole period of time, the how the country has been presented the research and published the number of documents. And here you can see that the few countries have been selected for this analysis, like Australia, Germany, India, and Ireland, USA. And these filters can also look at it, whether we need the 10 countries or how many countries we wanted for this kind of analysis. We can put this for this purpose, and we can always change this countries production over the time. And you have the most cited countries. You see that the most cited countries of the in the graphical format, and it's in India, because we had the most of documents since from the one institutions, so you can easily find that the most cited countries are the India ones. And this is how we can see the kind of analysis under the appellations. Now we can look at the what kind of analysis we can do by using the documents references. That is we can look at it the most cited documents by the researchers of the national dairy institutions. See, this is most cited documents. There's one document which is published in 2019 has the highest citations. You see this number of citations is got, right? and it's followed by the another articles published in 2014. And the this kind of plots you can always we can download it, and there's an option for filter number of top documents, if how many documents you need. If I wanted to know the top 10 articles, the most cited papers published by the researcher of XYZ institutions. This way you can always look at it either, or you can also increase the numbers. If you need the top 15, you can increase the numbers and measure the based on the total citations, how you want to measure, and the total citation per year. Since we needed the measure of research articles more cited by the total citations, we can select this as a total citations, and we are selecting the number of documents of maximum 20, 15 documents we wanted to have, top 15 documents of published, and we running this, and you can see that these are the top 15 articles, most cited articles published by the researcher of the institute. And there's another the plot we can create the most local cited documents. And these are the most local cited documents we can find it out. Again, it's also always every analysis it can gives in the Excel, where we can see the numbers and data, and also it can gives the plot. I mean, this is the flexible way you can verify the data, and you can do the your analysis. And the another option is the most local cited references. See here, we can see that the cited references analysis of documents, which is the most cited references of documents. Since there is a number of data, we have more data. It's take a little time to calculate all the calculations. See, this how we can identify the most cited references. But this purpose, we can also look at the tables, the most cited references, where we can easily identify the most cited references with the number of citations. And the another options what we have here, like the world frequency analysis, like the most cited word, it's like the keyword analysis kind of things, that we can use these options for identifying the most keywords researchers of any research institution use it in their articles. We can see that those keywords are coming, and again you have a source of identifying those keywords. You have author keywords, title and abstract. If I want to change the author keywords, and I'm putting maximum 15 number of author keywords, you can see the maximum 15 number of author keywords, and you see that these are the author maximum keywords that have been used. Because this research always based on the daily research institutions. You see that the keywords like the buffalo and milk, the east streets, goat, cattle, those keywords, you can easily find the related keywords of the institute research. And the another interesting things what we can analyze is here, we can have the tree map using those keywords. Yeah, this kind of keywords we can creating the tree map creating the tree map for the author keywords, and also the word frequency over the time. If you can look at the frequency of the frequently used keywords over the time, which is the most commonly used keywords over the time, you can easily identify, and also you can add it. And trends topic, which is the latest trends in the research it's been conducted by the research institutions. You can also identify the such a trend topics of the researcher have been involved with the research activities. Because based on the keyword analysis, we can also analyze. This is where how we can analyze the trend topics and the hot maximum number of keywords, and researchers which research area of interest using this the keyword analysis of the research. you can see that the trends topic, if you can look at the maximum trends topic is a dairy product. And dairy is, it's actually during the period, it's starting from the recently, if you can look at it, 2024 is recently, it's in the dairy product. But when you look at the same in 2018, in are something different, because research areas been changed in every time during the period of the time. And that's how we can see that, what are the kind of the research area has been conducted from the beginning, and also the recent research area. And further, what we have a cluster, and it's an intellectual structure also we have, conceptual structure also we have, and clusters by the coupling. And we have conceptual structure. In the conceptual structure, we can look at it co-occurrence network. See, the same options of creating the co-occurrence networks is also available in the OS viewer. We will want to show you how you can create the co-occurrence networks and other networks using the OS viewer. But this bibliometrics is also give you that features, facility to, you can create the course occurrence network. And here you have a field, the which field you wanted to select. If I'm going to select author field, and this is how you can create the co-occurrence network and the thematic map. And you can create the thematic map. And here the interesting, the factorial analysis. There's another options are available for factorial analysis. You can see that the word map and topic, the word by the cluster, article by the cluster. See, this is how you can analysis the factorial analysis of the research conducted by the dairy research organization. And we have like another options like intellectual structure. See here the co-citation network. This option is also available in the OS viewer, but we can see that how this bibliometrics can create the co-citation network. Here you can see that in the co-citation networks. And here is an option for filtering that you how will what are your field, by the papers, you by the documents, or by the author, or by the source. You see that you can also see the co-citation network by the authors and papers and sources. If you would like to know the by the sources co-citation network, we can start rerun this analysis. Now you can see that in the co-cited networks by the journals, that's the sources. Another thing what we have, the story graphs. Yeah, you can look at that, how the story graphs can be created using this. And the another, the social structure, you have the collaboration network. See, collaboration networks, the bibliometric is a tool of the full package for analyzing the bibliometric studies and the scientific studies, using these bibliometrics from the right beginning to end. And yeah, this is how you can see that in the collaboration network using this bibliometrics. And here you have a field which how you're going to identify the collaboration networks. So you can see that by the authors, or by the institutions, and by the countries. If you want to know that in the collaboration networks among the countries, or countries with the other countries, you can select the collaboration network. And let's rerun it. Yeah, this is how the collaboration with the other countries. If you see that, see, the India is the major productions of research articles. It's been collaborated with, and the maximum number of countries. You see that the number of documents been collaborated with the some other countries like India, China, Australia, Saudi Arabia, Kenya, United Kingdom. You can identify the collaborations countries of the world map. Yeah, this is how to the map you can also create the collaboration networks using this platform. I mean, this kind of the analysis you always can do using this biblioscience and bibliometrics, because what we have seen that we had the analysis of the research organization called the National Dairy Research Institute, and taking the data from the Scopus. We have imported the data in the bibliometrics tool, and we have seen that the kind of analysis like the year-wise productions and the prolific authors and number of sources, number of references, and also the top citation analysis, citation based analysis like the most cited papers, and also we have seen that the country collaborations, especially collaboration networks, using this bibliometrics. But clearly the one can use this as a bibliometrics tool for doing the entire research analysis. Uh, However, the worst we were the what we are going to show you also giving the creating the many other visualization features. Now let's do that the analysis of visualization network using the OS viewer. Now using that the institutional data, creating the visualization network with the OS viewer, and it's again the creating the map based networks, and we are selecting the bibliography data from the web of science corpus dimensions, and we had the earlier web of science, so now we are selecting the scopus data. I'm selecting the scopus data here. My scopus data is my scopus data here. I've selected my scopus data, and then I'm going for click. Reading this corpus data was we are also taking little time. It always based on the number of documents of the data is contained in a CSV file. We have imported the data of National Dairy Research institutions, what we have downloaded from the Scopus to the OS viewer. Now you can see that the type of the analysis from the OS viewer, we are enabled with the co-authorship using the authors and countries and co-occurrence of all the keywords and author keywords and indexed keywords, and also the citations by the number of documents and the number of sources and authors and organizations, and the bibliographical coupling and co-citations network analysis. We are going with the co-authorship analysis with the authors, and then I'm just selecting the next, and here I'm going to minimize the number of documents of an author. And here we can see that authors and number of documents and citation, that the total strength, and into click. This is how now is created like the co-citation authors network by the authors. So you see that there's in one author, it's in Kumaresan A, he has the most the collaborations with the other authors. You can see that in the documents by the co-citations. So we can also save this screenshot uh, as an image. And going back to creating the another co-authorship network, the what we had, one is author by the co-authorship network, and it is co-authorship by the organizations. We are minimizing numbers here, and this is the minimum number, and yeah, I'm going to finish. Yeah, you can see that the co-authorship by the organizations, how it's been networked among the different how it's been collaborated with the other organizations. You can see that the maximum number of research by the National Dairy Research Institutions, the authors of National Dairy Research Institution, it's been collaborated with the the various related organizations in India and also the internationals. And another we can look at it how we can create the map co-authorship by the countries, minimizing the number of documents of a country, it's a one. Yeah, this is how you can look at it, how that national dairy research institutions is been collaborated with many other countries. You can see that the most of the articles by the the United States, and you have a collaboration with the Japan, Canada, and Belgium and others. Now you have a country, and I'm going back here and create the map based network for doing another analysis. And now we have seen that the co-authorship networks, and we can look at it co-occurrence. Co-occurrence, it's kind of analysis using the keywords. We can also use the author keywords and indexed keywords. And let's look at the how we can use the co-occurrence by the author keywords, and that is next. And we can see that the minimum number of document co-occurrence of a keywords is one. We always keep the minimum to meet that this kind of analysis maximum keywords. And next, and we're going to click. Right, and this is how you can look at that co-occurrence network by the author keywords. You see that the keywords they have been the same keywords have been used by the multiple articles, a number of maximum used by the many. It's been connected with the many others keywords, and means it's appear in the multiple research articles, right? Keyword. And another, we can also look at it, how we can look at the citation based analysis type of analysis. Like the citations, it's actually by the documents, and by the sources, and by the author, by the organizations, by the country. And then we can look at it for creating the citation networks by the documents. And clicking the next, yeah, considering all the minimum number of citations zero, and we have 2068 documents. And yeah, this is how we can create the citations networks by the documents. You have the authors being connected with the each and other documents, how they have been connected with the other documents. Yes. And second, we can look at that the citation analysis by the countries. See, you can see that citation analysis by the countries. India is the major number of documents has, and it has the other countries. It always, you can see that it also depends on the collaborations. If you have the more collaboration with the particular country, either the USA or Canada, you have the more citation with the those countries as well. Country citation. And another, we can see that citations by the authors, that you can also look at the by the authors, and by the organizations, and also source. And here next, we can look at that, how we can create the bibliographical coupling. So bibliographical coupling is a kind of the studies of identifying the similar research networks of the documents. We can have that bibliographic coupling of by the documents, sources, authors, and the organizations. If you can look at the bibliographic coupling by the documents, we have selected that, and we are just clicking on OK. And yes, here, and we're going to finish it. right? I mean, so this is the network of bibliographic coupling by the documents. You can see that the how the individual documents been connected with the related to the other documents. That's how the curved lines. You can always look at that the single particular documents has the multiple curved lines. That means it has the relationship with the more than one articles, or the maximum number of articles. And another way we can create the bibliographical coupling by the countries are the sources and the organization way. And if you can look at the bibliographical coupling, this bibliographical coupling by the sources, the journals, the publication published by the researcher of the National Diary Research Institute. You can see that how we can create this kind of bibliographical couplings by the sources. The finally we also have that co-citation network. See, we can create the co-citation networks using the cited references and cited authors and also the cited sources. Let's look at that how we can analyze the co-citation by the cited references. And here it's like we can put two three minimum number of documents. We have that cited references of one, and going to put as a next here, right? See, this is how the co-citation networks can be created using that cited references. And we also have the another options of creating the co-citation network using the cited sources, like the sources have been referred in their references, because this is a co-citation network based on the cited sources. It's like a reference journals. The researcher have been cited the number of journal articles, how they have been interconnected, how they have a relationship among the article published by the researcher of national dairy research organizations. And sources citation network. And finally, we can also create that co-citation network using that cited authors. If an author, as if an multiple authors have been cited with the same author articles, if an authors of the multiple documents have been cited by the same authors, there is a relationship between the research between the research those been carrying by the individual researchers. We can look at that how that co-citation analysis can also help for identifying this similar research of an institutions. Yeah, this is how you can look at that co-citation analysis based on the cited references, cited authors. You see that these authors of has been connected with the documents of multiple references, uh, right? This is how you can create the co-citation network by the authors and sources and cited references. The purpose of practicing this case study is to understand the workflow of conducting the research, measuring the impact of the research organizations and the research journals. Throughout this the case studies of this practice, what we have done, we have taken the one sample as a journal and another sample as a research organizations, and different data source also we have covered. The one is from the Web of Science, like the journal what we have covered is the cancer research journal. That data we have taken from the Web of Science. The another we have taken the as a research organizations, as I mentioned, that we have taken as a sample, but as a individual researcher You can also identify the your thread research areas, or if you want to do the analysis of any journals, or any name of the journals or any institutions. But there are certain criteria you have to follow before identifying those journals. Uh, that the secondly, we had taken the research organizations, that's the called national dairy research institutions. We have taken this data for this research institution from this corpus, and once we considering this two way of analysis, we have shown that how we can export the data from the particular databases, because the different scopus and web of science has their own limitations when you go for exporting the data. But you have to download the data by with the limitations, by downloading the step by step the small amount of the data. And after we download the data, we have shown that how we can analyze the data, how we can identify the impact, how we can identify the growth of research. It's been published in a journal and the research organizations. To this, we have shown that kind of analysis that bibliometrics gives, it's a flexible for the every researchers. It can give you the all the features. One can easily identify the impact and growth of the research, and identify the area of the research and collaborations, and also the citation based growth, and also some of the all the metrics what through bibliography studies can be done. And in the other way, the OS Viewer, it's in a visualization tool. We also done the creating the co-citation networks and other citation network of the research by the authors and co-occurrence, bibliography coupling, and co-citations using the WordSphere platform. Because that's the purpose behind this case studies, to give you the practical orientation for you to knowing that as a researcher you would like to write an article, or as a working professionals you would like to analyze the research impact of your institutions or the journals. You should have the practical step by step idea how you can analyze the research impact using these platforms. Somehow because these are the open source platforms, you can easily identify the research impact of research productivity by the organizations. Right? Thank you.